Hello again, and in this big leash series we've tried to show you some of the commands and the way we use the remote trainer to help us teach them. We've shown you dogs which are not fully trained, dogs which are almost ready to go home, as you might say, and have a high degree of training. But you can see all the time we're constantly training, we're constantly working with those dogs. And you know, people often say to me, well, what about behavioral problems? What about cat chasing, car chasing? What about aggression? Can the collar help with those? And at one time people seem to think that you used it as a punishing correction tool. The dog chased a cat, you put it on as high as possible, you hit it with that, and there we go, that solved the problem. Well, that's not the way I particularly like to work. What I'm always looking at as I want to keep the, if you like, the temperament of the dog, the personality of the dog high and happy. I don't want them to be afraid of any particular situations. I want them to be under control. I always introduce the collar. Whether I'm looking at cat chasing, whether I'm looking at a dog which wants to go and dig the garden, whatever it is, car chasing, I want to introduce the collar. I want to get understanding. I want to get confidence in the collar and its use and understanding of its use. And I want to get them the confidence in me as the handler, as the trainer, as the person that they're in partnership with. So that if I go along and they see a squirrel or they see a cat and I say, leave it, and I tap that little button, it means leave it. And they go, okay, yep, I know, I don't follow that anymore. I have two dog training cats here, Mr. Boots and Miss Milkbone. And both of them come out and they work with us. And they're great because they can read the dogs, and they come and they roll near them and they walk near them, and I can slowly desensitize the dogs to the cats. In other words, I start from a distance. They see them, leave it, and I lead them away. I'll have them on a leash, I'll have them on the collar. Tap the collar, leave it, take them away. I redirect them to something, and then we do something fun. We do something constructive. So you're always looking at ways in which you can gradually desensitize the dog until at the end, the cats are walking alongside the dogs. The cats live in my dog room, and they go through the door with the dogs, even dogs which would have chased them and done nasty things to them, I'm sure, when they first came. It's a matter really of creating that control. And so everything starts with obedience. Everything starts with the dog having confidence in itself and in you as a handler. And I think really getting confidence in you and as a handler using the remote trainer is very important, because if they get confidence in you, then their confidence in themselves grows. And as I said once before, you know, we want to try and give them the good habits. They look at a cat and say, I don't chase. Not look at a cat and say, prey drive. I've got to chase it. You know, that's what I am. I'm a spaniel, I'm a Labrador, I'm a German Shepherd, whatever it is. I need to chase it, I need to catch it. We need to be able to replace, if you like, that urge, that prey drive with self-control. And that's where the collar comes in. And when you're starting to work with the collar, you know, it may be that nothing in life is free. In other words, every resource of your dog you have to control. You might tell it to go for a drink. You may control how much it drinks. You may ask it to sit before it gets its food. You may actually put it into the crate so when you can't control it, it doesn't get into trouble. But nothing in life is free. You take control. As that dog gets the right habits, then you can gradually release the boundaries, the limitations on that dog. And the dog begins to do the right things because it's learned to do the right things. You know, so when it comes to the use of the remote trainer, for nearly all behavioral problems, it's interesting, people talk about thunderphobia. I had a dog which was a little bit thunderphobic, my own dog. But if I put the collar on her and went out with her, it seemed to give her confidence for some reason, and she wasn't as thunderphobic. She didn't worry about it too much. She'd go out and retrieve and play with me in the thunder. But if that wasn't on, and we weren't doing anything like training, she would be very worried. So sometimes it can help you in ways you wouldn't imagine. So when we're looking at dogs which countersurf, leave it, create a boundary around that. Dogs which go and jump up on people, when they come towards people, you tap them on the collar just before they get and you go sit, so it becomes a habit that I sit in front of people, I wait to be greeted. The doorbell rings, the dog runs to the door, you teach it to go to a place. Tell it to wait on a place. Tell it to stay in that place. Let people ignore it until you invite it off, and then it can be greeted by the people. So there's a lot of behavioral issues. You know, coprophagia, poop eating. Some dogs do it. They can't help it. Put a collar on them. Introduce the collar. Get them familiar with the collar. They go to eat something, you just tap it and say, thank you very much for finding it, leave it. You go and pick it up yourself, put it in a plastic bag and take it away. You know, there are many behavioral problems which are from the natural instincts of the dog. They're part of what's built into them. But natural instincts can be controlled by redirecting, by having self-control, occasionally a correction if necessary, but good training overcomes them all. So when you're looking at the collar, it's a very, very versatile tool. It helps you train the obedience. It helps you develop motivation and drive in your dog. It helps you relax because you can constantly be in communication and touch the dog. It helps you overcome behavioral problems which can be frustrating, annoying, and in many cases lead to even the dog being put down. You know, people say to me, don't use the collar for aggression. Rubbish. If you have aggression of any nature, teach the dog to be in control of itself and to accept control from its handler. When you do that, you can overcome the aggression. Yes, if it's fighting, you don't use the collar when the dog is actually in a fight. But what you do is to work them towards accepting other dogs. Desensitize them. Take control at a distance. Show them that it's not acceptable. Show them what they can do instead. Redirect them. Give them leadership. And the collar helps you do that. So with all these behavioral problems that people come up against, I want a dog to stay with you for a lifetime. I want a dog to become your partner. I want a dog to become to you what they've been to me for 50 years. I can't imagine a house without them. And to be honest, the collar can help a lot of people when introduced correctly, used correctly. And if you're not sure, there are trainers out there, and I'll promote a little unit that we founded and is tremendous throughout this country and other countries, the International Association of Canine Professionals. Go to canineprofessionals.com, look for a trainer in your area, and find one that can show you how to use the collar if you're not confident, if you're not sure after this series. And there's nothing wrong with asking. So help is out there. Your dogs deserve it, you deserve it, and then you can have a long life together and enjoy the companionship that I've enjoyed, as I say, over 50 years. The collar helps me do it for other people these days also. Thank you for BigLeash for allowing me to share some of these things. And thank you for BigLeash for giving a lot of owners a way to keep their dogs within the family for a lifetime.